Welcome back to Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frezza. With us for the second half of the show is Stephen Leeds, Director of Corporate Marketing for TigerDirect, which recently began accepting bitcoins for online transactions. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Stephen, start by telling us why TigerDirect decided to follow Overstock.com's lead and begin accepting bitcoins for payment.
Well, actually, Overstock's decision to accept Bitcoin had nothing to do with our decision. We had been carefully watching Bitcoin for almost over a year now. And we started discussions with several processors about 10 months ago. And then, we laid out what time we thought it would be appropriate to do our due diligence and see how it was going. But, Overstock, it seemed to me that, they were very into the press aspect of it, whereas, we were doing this solely for our customers.
It looks like you have quite a bit of background in Bitcoin, because I can see from the website that the information explaining the Bitcoin payment mechanisms to the customers is very tightly coupled with TigerDirect's marketing campaign to sell Bitcoin mining equipment. Maybe you can briefly describe what Bitcoin mining is.
Well, for instance, for a traditional credit card processor like American Express, they have warehouses full of computer servers that validate transactions when you purchase. The way that Bitcoins get disseminated into the market is by people using their computers to facilitate those validations. So a typical Bitcoin miner will let their computer run software that does these computations. And for their services, they can potentially get a piece of a Bitcoin. So the more people that try to mine Bitcoins, the harder it becomes and the less effective their current technology.
Well, let's slow down on that for a minute. So just to make sure folks understand. So a Bitcoin miner does two things. He buys gear from folks like you. Then he goes and tries to discover Bitcoin through this algorithmic process. But he's also involved in a distributed way in validating transactions.
Yeah, one hand washes the other. So their computer, validates the process by linking these blocks that they call it, that run complex math problems in order to keep the encryption.
Is selling Bitcoin mining equipment a big business for TigerDirect, or is it just a sideline?
When we started TigerDirect over 20 years ago, we catered to the DIY community. And back then, everybody thought that was crazy. They said, who's going to build their own computer? Now it's, it turned us into a major business.
Yep.
And we feel that Bitcoin has all those same aspects. They're incredibly enthusiastic, really knowledgeable, and, they deserve a place where they can come and get, all of the equipment.
So you've got a leg into that community already, and why not begin accepting the currency that your customers are using to buy more equipment?
Exactly. We've seen that the AMD graphics cards, AMD has a more powerful graphics card.
And those were used for gaming originally, right?
Yeah. It was a happy accident that people discovered that they're almost 3 times more powerful than other cards because of the GPU. So, we've been selling a lot of those, and our customers have been asking us to accept Bitcoin. And, it's only fair that if we're selling the equipment, we might as well give them what they want.
Yeah, it's just another way for one hand to wash the other. Now, you mentioned that as more Bitcoins get discovered, and my understanding is that there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins in the universe. It's built into the algorithm. There's something like 12 or 12.5 million Bitcoins out there now, so there's still another 10 million to be discovered. As it gets harder and harder, you need more and more powerful computers to discover the next Bitcoin. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's why we've been increasing our assortment. We just launched this week with Butterfly Labs, which makes their new Monarch that's coming out in a month or two is going to be 200 times faster, according to them, more efficient discovering Bitcoins.
Does it become a point where the consumer hardware or even the prosumer hardware ends up losing out to custom-based ASIC or application-specific equipment that only the top Bitcoin miners can afford?
It appears that there is a serious business in Bitcoin mining. There's definitely operations. I just read that $7 million was raised for a company to buy $5 million worth of equipment for them to start mining.
No kidding.
So, with anything, early adopters, will have an advantage on this, especially if they grow their arsenal of Bitcoin mining machines.
But it's an arms race, right? There's a window after which, if you don't keep up, you're not going to be able to find that next Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that's why, we felt the need that, to get in and really help publicize all the, advanced equipment we have.
Yeah, what's better for an arms merchant than an arms race? I mean, this is basically what Intel and Microsoft did over all the years, getting people to buy a new computer every 18 months.
Well, yeah, what's exciting for me, at least, as a, someone who's into technology and stuff, is that software used to drive hardware. that you had to get the latest processor in order to run the next generation of Windows. Now it seems that it's been slowing down.
Oh, I haven't replaced my PC in 2.5 years now.
Exactly, and you probably won't need to do it for another year.
No, I'm not running out of memory anymore.
Yeah. So just from someone who's a fan of technology, so it's very exciting that these companies, whether they're small or big, are forced to keep investing in research and development. And we never know what these computers, once this is all done, what they'll be able to do.
No, that's true.
Just like with these graphics cards, these were made for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
And then we discovered that, they're great for Bitcoin mining. So just that possibility is very exciting because we always need something to push the envelope.
Absolutely. And I noticed in reading some of the articles on this that over time, it's actually the cost of electricity that ends up dominating in making this stuff work. These big servers take a lot of electricity to run. I saw somewhere that there's a concern about botnets that are basically stealing electricity, using spare cycles on people's computers that were normally used to send out spam to mine for Bitcoins. Have you seen any of that yet? And do you worry that over time that could shift the power over to the botnets and undermine the ecosystem?
I'm not familiar with that. I haven't seen those articles.
Mm-hmm.
But with anything, there's always going to be, dishonest people, trying to get their hand in something. That's why, the news this week of the, of Bitcoin exchange was, so disappointing.
Now, I want to come back to that because that has some impact, I think, on the trajectory of this. But I think what might be helpful, and again, we're talking to a largely business audience here, take us through the process of clearing a Bitcoin purchase transaction. I mean, when I use a credit card to shop online, I have to wait 4 or 5 seconds to get the card authorized. I watch the little warning light that tells me not to hit the back button. How does one clear a Bitcoin transaction?
Oh, well, it's super simple. You would shop on our site like you normally would.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the checkout process, it asks, what type of payment you'd like to do. So you scroll down, you click Bitcoin. Then
I could click PayPal, I could click Visa, I can click MasterCard,
you could click, Bill Me Later, any one of those. The way that we did it was that we have you complete the order. You give us all your information first. So we treat it like an open account.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you click like submit, it locks you in at that exchange rate. So you have a 15-minute window of which you said that, if it was going to be 1 Bitcoin, you have 15 minutes that 1 Bitcoin is equal to the product that you wanted.
And then what happens?
Well, then you have 3 ways of doing it. If you have your wallet saved on your computer, you can click the first option.
Mm-hmm.
If you have it on your phone, you can take a picture of the QR code. And the third option is to send a link.
I checked the stats this morning. It looks like it takes anywhere from 5 to maybe 15 minutes to clear a Bitcoin transaction. Do the customers have to wait for that to happen, or do they go away and get an email later that said that their purchase happened?
No, they go away and they get an email later.
Okay.
We process it. It goes through BitPay. BitPay is the one that says whether the code is good or not.
That's who authorizes the transaction for you.
Yeah, BitPay is our processing service.
It costs a couple of % for Visa to clear a transaction. What does it cost you to clear a Bitcoin transaction?
Well, I can't speak to the exact financials because that's not my department, but we pay a flat fee. So everything in excess, we're eliminating that processing fee. So it's just even a bigger incentive for us to start accepting the currency amongst 1,000 other reasons.
So the bigger the purchase order, the lower the percentage you're paying for that transaction, as opposed to Visa, where you're stuck with your 2% all the way.
Oh yeah, it's close to 3%, and especially in our business where margins are tight, that makes a difference.
Now, once you have the Bitcoin in your system, how do you turn them back into dollars? Because you can't go shopping with Bitcoins.
That's what BitPay does for us. BitPay turns it into dollars and sends us the U.S. cash. So we're not physically taking the Bitcoin. Neither is Overstock. That's what these processing companies do. So they're basically like a currency exchange.
So they tell you what the spot price is. They say, this is a valid Bitcoin. And then the instant the transaction happens, they own the Bitcoin and you own the cash, and you don't take any currency risk.
Yes.
So they're the ones taking the currency risk.
Yeah, but right now all those companies, they're acting as speculators where they turn around and they either hoard the Bitcoin or they sell it. But eventually they're going to be making their money off of the transactions once they scale up.
And it's a fixed price transaction for you, regardless of the size of the order.
Yeah.
All right.
We have a monthly overall deal.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the companies do it at 1%. We carefully vetted a few different processing companies, and the reason we went with BitPay was, one, their integration was very easy for us to do, and then second, We really like the people over there. We do business with people, not just companies.
No, it's a relationship. So I was on the website this morning, and I noticed that all sales are final in Bitcoin, unlike a credit card or something like that. Why is that? What makes Bitcoin different when it comes to refunds and whatnot?
Well, because of the volatility of it. Also, to protect, we instituted Bitcoin so that our customers, who are hardworking men and women, could shop easily on our site. We didn't want to even be put in a position where someone would be trying to, change Bitcoins into cash. So,
all right. It would make you a de facto conversion facility, which you don't want to be. You just want to be an online
no
merchant.
company that's going to be taking this in their right mind, would have that. So whatever the U.S. value, that you purchased, that's what you'll
get
be
refunded
able,
yeah. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
So it takes you out of the
'cause
equation.
We're not a currency exchange, and we only take U.S. tender. So it's just the same as if you were to have somebody change your euros into cash and then shop on our site. We wouldn't give you back euros.
Well, that also protects you from some of the regulatory concern. I mean, you mentioned earlier, and of course it's been all over the news, that the arrest of Bitcoin Exchange CEO Charlie Shrem on charges of money laundering and operating unlicensed monetary transmitting businesses rippling through the community. I mean, these are the same tactics the federal government used to destroy e-gold not long ago. Does this worry you at all?
It doesn't really concern me because I've never done business with any of these guys. We're following the letter of the law, and we're only interested in providing our customers with a safe and easy way of exchanging Bitcoins on our site. If the federal government was to step in and deem them illegal, we would obviously comply.
So you can turn it off tomorrow. No loss to TigerDirect. It's an experiment, and if they decide to crush these guys, on to the next one.
Well, we don't view it as an experiment. I really see this as just the beginning of the future when it comes to these sort of things. That's what's exciting about Bitcoin, is that it has the potential to become an international currency.
Have you looked at other alternatives? I mean, there's a lot of Bitcoin-like products out there. It is an open source technology. Have you looked at the other Bitcoin alternatives, and do you expect more to come to market?
Yeah, the next promising one looks like Litecoin. And again, it's very similar to the infancy of Bitcoin mining. We're selling a lot of Litecoin machines. And so, if the community, asks for it, it's definitely something that we're going to look into. We've seen an overwhelming response, for Bitcoins on our site. So it's really the customer drives our decision-making here.
Makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about the Bitcoin community, because this, again, as you read, there seems to be a lot of bravado out there when it comes to dealing with regulators. And again, I don't know how familiar you are with the history of e-gold, but we've seen this movie before, and the final act started pretty much the same way with these kind of accusations. There are claims that Bitcoin transactions are not anonymous because there's an audit trail, but it's the easiest thing in the world to anonymize them. In fact, I think there's a website called bitlaunder.com that can completely anonymize Bitcoin transactions. Who knows what amount of this is likely to flow into the underground community? And again, is there a concern on the part of TigerDirect that they might be tarred with a bad reputation because of that?
No, because the anonymous aspect of Bitcoin, doesn't excite or concern me. I think that was something that people who are doing illicit activities enjoyed about it. But if you're making a purchase on my website, you're giving us your information and where to send it.
But if I come to your website and I say, my name's John Doe, P.O. Box 347, Singapore, here's my Bitcoin, will you sell them equipment?
We don't ship outside the U.S., so no.
Okay.
In that particular example. But we do have a record of what you purchased.
But you don't know my real name. I mean, all you know is you have my Bitcoin and you have an address. We just have to send it somewhere.
Yeah, but that's the equivalent of, we don't take your name when you come into our retail stores. Bitcoin is pretty much, in essence, very similar to cash.
Well, to cash, you're right. You're right.
So, we don't sell anything potentially dangerous on our site, and we don't ship out of the country. So
so that solves that international problem.
Yeah.
So how does all this fit into TigerDirect's larger strategy?
Well, we're moving towards a customer-first business, and everything we do has, how does this make it better for the customer? Nowadays, you can go to Amazon and get something, cheapest and fast, and good luck getting somebody on the phone if, God forbid, something goes wrong with it. So we're trying to differentiate ourselves, and we feel that the best way to do that is with knowledge and customer service. And so we've always been a destination for content. We've been doing this over 20 years, and we built it from the ground up. So moving forward, this is just the first example, or one of the first examples of how we listen to our audience. Mm-hmm. We have over 1.2 million Facebook followers. We're very popular on Twitter and Instagram, YouTube as well. Our videos have been viewed over 100 million times.
No kidding.
So we're really about taking care of, building a community and taking care of them and listening. So our customers asked for Bitcoin, and that was something that we were able to implement. So we were very happy about that, as well as really branding the business. So we purchased CompUSA several years ago.
Oh boy, that's a storied name from way back when.
And we bought Circuit City out of bankruptcy.
Yep.
So we recently rolled all those companies under one, which is TigerDirect. So we're really making a push to brand the business, and so we've recently partnered up with a comedy duo called Rhett and Link. They did an epic rap battle, Nerds vs. Geeks.
I've seen headlines for that. I haven't watched it yet. Maybe I should go watch it when we're done talking.
Oh, yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It's an amazing song. So, we said to them, hey, we want to do something fun for our fans, and really want to, highlight some of the culture of geeks and nerds, which, we're a whole business built on geeks and nerds.
I've always considered myself a nerd, not a geek, so I got to go see how you describe them.
Well, there is a dichotomy of it. It's really pretty funny, and they really hit it on the head. So anyway, we flew them out. We taped in our store from 8 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning, and it's been out for 2 months, and it's already got over 7.5 million hits. So
you're really appealing to the millennial generation, and good for you. Is there a big difference in the demographic between your customers and, say, Amazon's customers?
Well, I can't speak to Amazon's customers, because Amazon is Amazon.
Yeah.
But for our customer, we're mostly male. 18 to, and then it goes up to probably 50, 55, because we've got a tremendous amount of loyal customers who, when they were in their 20s, they started shopping with us.
Remember Fry's? You may not remember Fry's.
No, Fry's still around.
Okay.
I know them.
Yeah, but that's pretty much their demographic. It was 18 to 30-year-old geeks buying computers and potato chips at the checkout. So this is sort of your online Fry's.
Yeah, we also have 35 brick and mortar locations.